How you doing? Thanks for downloading the show. Welcome to Garden Fork Radio. It's Eclectic DIY. My name is Eric. I have this podcast and a YouTube channel by the same name, Garden Fork. Today, I've got Jen and Rob here from North Carolina, and they're doing a couple of cool things in life, and I wanted them to be on the show. So welcome, guys. Thanks for coming.
Hey there.
Hey, thank you for having us. We're honored to be on today.
Yes, we are.
Well, I have to apologize for being a flake about trying to schedule this call. I'm trying to schedule with a couple Garden Fork people, and I mean, my brain, I'm not good at the short-term stuff, so I'm trying to get better at writing things down and that. But anyway, it's great to be here.
Hey, thank you for having us. We were very excited to see the latest video of your first wooden boat that you're making. We were surprised at how long the video was. It was very detailed.
You know,
but we were very happy.
I was thinking about that because there's a trend on YouTube toward longer videos anyway. Like a lot of the fix-it DIY people I watch, sometimes they're 30 minutes long. And the previous plywood boat, which I think is like 10 years old now, I didn't explain things very well, and I wanted to have the dogs in there more and just kind of for me, it was less of a how to build a boat, and it was more about come along with me as I try and build a boat, you know?
Yeah.
We got that feel by watching it.
But it was a lot of detail, and it was a lot of stuff that I would never have thought about in the whole building process. So we learned a lot from that. And possibly that would be something we're going to try maybe this spring, summer. Right now we're almost become full-time quilters. We're doing a lot of quilts for people that have passed away. It's kind of a remembrance thing for the families. So we get a lot of clothes that are donated from the family, and we're all self-taught. Actually, this is more your fault because you have a couple of videos where you're talking about your sewing machine as the first 3D printer.
Yeah.
And we happened to inherit one, and Jennifer wanted nothing to do with it. And I'm looking at it after seeing a couple of your videos, and it's like, I don't think it's that hard. So she does a lot of the cutting and pinning, and I do most of the sewing. So she's behind the whole design of everything, and I'm kind of the day laborer.
as it should be.
He doesn't like the cutting. He doesn't like the cutting and the measuring and getting everything so that it fits together well. And I don't really want to use the sewing machine. My mom made all kinds of stuff. She was great at sewing. That's actually who we inherited it from. But I mean, I dabbled with it when I was younger. But everybody has their own things that they like to do, and sewing's not my favorite thing. But it's great because we can be a team and do these projects.
When I'm running the sewing machine, I kind of get lost in it. I've got my music playing in the background. And as long as I'm feeding material into it, it starts to take shape, and that's a kind of an interesting side of things.
Isn't that? I do the same thing. You kind of go into this Zen state of like you are an extension of the sewing machine, and it just makes that rhythmic sound, and that's amazing. Yeah. I love that.
In a way, it's almost hypnotic, and the time passes so quickly and next thing you know, you've got this raw material that's gone to something that a family is going to appreciate for years, you hope. So, but my dad passed away very suddenly about 2 years ago, and I ended up with all his clothes. Me and him were similar sized. But it was one of these things. I really didn't want to wear my dad's stuff, and the whole family was grieving. So I made pillowcases out of a lot of my dad's clothes for my family, and we just turned this into something that we got such positive feedback that we
continued to do it. And then his sister asked us if we could make some kind of quilt out of the material from her dad's clothes. So we said, okay. And so what happened is we did that, and we were just learning, and basically we showed it to a neighbor who
has been making ongoing orders. And thankfully, nobody has passed away, so we're finally getting into the realm of the living as far as quilting goes. So it's a little bit more positive for us.
Yeah.
But it's been a learning experience. It really has.
I like the kind of thought process there, the kind of, I don't know if it's a happy accident or aha moment, or just like, oh, I got these clothes, and then I would have never thought to make pillowcases out of them, and then all of a sudden it pops into your head to do that and see where that goes is so much fun.
Oh, yeah. And back when a few years ago, I ran across another YouTube channel on making kilts.
Yes.
And it was one of these things that I was really overthinking the whole process. And when I started simplifying some stuff, I come to find out it's basically just a pleated skirt. And even though I'm not very good at all the dimensions and the math behind it, I can pin it, I can sew it, and I can just put it up to me. And if it's wrong, you just pop the stitches. So recently I found out that I was 78.9% Irish, and that was a huge surprise to me because I'm adopted.
Oh, nice.
And I've always kind of had one of these things where I liked the whole quilting lifestyle, but I had no reason to get into it until I took a DNA test, and now that's kind of like keys of the kingdom. So we go from quilting to kilt making and kind of Irish Scottish stuff that goes with it. And it has been a fascinating journey, and it's something that I'd encourage anybody to look into. We're using our sewing machine, and we're doing stuff that we never thought we'd be doing with it, and we're having a good time doing it.
I love that.
And we're doing it together.
That's the beauty of that. Yeah, the camera operator will not get near the sewing machine. But I didn't mention in the intro, but we have all met because you came up to Connecticut to see some family and emailed me and said, hey, you want to have coffee? And I drove over. I think you guys were like 45 minutes away from me. So I was like, yeah, I'll just drive over. And we were going to meet in front of this coffee place, and there were two couples sitting outdoors. And there was one couple that looked kind of like, the guy was dressed in like khakis and stuff. And then there was a guy with a kilt, and I'm like, that's the guy.
Well, this has been a little bit of hero worship, to be honest with you. They say don't meet your heroes because they'll never live up to. And that was probably one of the greatest days of my life. But
you did, because you're just as real as you are on your show. Yeah. And you were so kind to come and see us, and we really did enjoy our visit with you.
I had discovered Garden Fork. I'd had a stroke about 8 years ago, and it was very touch and go if I was going to make it or not. And for the 30 some odd days I was in the hospital, there was not a lot I was allowed to do. And I found your channel, and the first video was you making a dry fit pizza oven, and your wife had said something to you, and you basically said, it's driveway pizza. And after that, I was like, I got to find out everything I can about this guy. And you watching your channel, the greatest inspiring thing about the whole thing is that if it's a win or a loss, you always put it on there.
Yes. And
to me, it's real. It's a very tangible thing. And then to finally get a chance to meet you was the best day ever.
Because we really love that. Just do it. And if it doesn't work out, you can try it again. And, it motivated us to try stuff because it didn't have to be perfect. And me, who's a bit of a perfectionist, I'm learning to let go of some of that. And part of it's because of your shows too.
Oh, that's great. That's
I
great.
do have,
We talked for like 2 hours. Was it an hour and a half, 2 hours?
Yes, yes, yes.
I think, and I wrote down in my book, I think I actually stole your phone by accident.
Yes,
Oh, that's yes.
So it was an adventure all the way around.
We're like, oh, we have 3 phones. Oh, no.
That was great.
That was a very good day.
Yay.
So,
Well,
I do have a question for you.
Okay, sure.
We're trying to put together a hoop house because in North Carolina the weather's finally changing. And from your videos, I've never seen you put any kind of exterior light in it.
Yes.
Do you ever put a heat lamp or anything like that to keep your growing season going?
No, I don't have any electricity out near the garden, but I have seen people use like incandescent light bulbs, like on work clamp lights, and it was just like I don't want to run electricity all the way out here. And I thought, and in Connecticut, when it gets cold, it's just the light bulbs aren't going to help, you know?
Oh, okay.
With the warming of the planet, it's less, but there's still like 2 weeks where it's like almost a zero. But at that time, what I thought to do was to cover the greens or whatever with straw, like loose straw. And then when it started to warm up, pull the straw off again. It's like a thermal blanket.
Okay.
Very good idea.
All right.
Oh, great.
You guys have a longer season, so
advice.
You might be able to squeak it out, you know, because you don't get as many frost days as we do.
No. Okay. So that's the project. That's our fall project right now. Is just trying to extend. We do some hydroponics inside of our house.
Oh, fun!
And which is good enough because it's just me and my wife. But with that, it's just really just different kinds of lettuces. But we have some tomatoes going, and we're just trying to see how long we can keep things growing. So it's more of a personal challenge at this point. We had done garlic the last couple of years and decided not to this year only because we can grow garlic, but we can't. We're having a very hard time with the curing process. So until we can get better at that, I just don't want to put a lot of effort into something that we can grow, but we just can't keep.
Yeah, I've never been able to. I mean, I guess it's called curing or drying, but the hardneck garlic that I grow, we have to use it fairly quickly because after a couple of months, it just starts to mold. And my neighbor, who's a farmer, has a big barn, and he's very successful at it because he's been doing it for years. And I don't really get too wound up in it because I'm like, I grow garlic for myself and my mother-in-law who loves it. And then I'm like, okay, when I run out, I'll just buy the garlic from the farmer market, ideally, or from the grocery store. Throw some in.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't throw in 100 bulbs. Throw in like 10, and then you'll get 10. Put 10 cloves in the ground, you'll get 10 bulbs out, and you'll use those within 2 months. You know.
Okay, we can do that.
That would work out great. Perfect. In fact.
Yeah, start small. Okay. Make it simple. So we also talked about, I guess the last topic of the regular part of the show here is that you guys make some homemade wines, and you gave me 2 bottles, which I think I sent you tasting notes on.
You did.
And they were both really good, but I don't know if you would share for a minute how that process works, because I think people would like to try that.
We're blessed with a lot of friends with fruit trees, and we'll get a phone call and they'll say, hey, we've gotten all the fruit that we can do anything with. Come get it. And at that time, the fruit is probably ripe to overripe, which is what you want.
Yeah.
And depending on what kind of fruit it is, we wash it, we sterilize it, and then we freeze it. And in the freezing process, you break down the cell walls inside of the fruit. So it's some of the best juice extraction that we've been able to find. We also use, it's almost like a commercial grade juice that is treated. So if you have a really good crop one year and a so-so crop next year, your wine's never going to taste the same.
Right.
So we're using a commercial treated juice extract that we add different sugars. The water's always the same, but different kinds of sugars. And we experiment with different kinds of yeast. But back when we were in our 20s, we were poor. And we did wine to give to people as birthday and Christmas presents.
Nice.
And people just loved it. And then later on, we kind of retired that, and we had our careers that we were doing. But after I got sick with the stroke, the doctors encouraged me to start doing some stuff that we had done in the past. Things to possibly help me with my memory and stuff like that. So that's what got us back into it. And we've been having a ball with it, but we make different kinds of wines. We make a blood orange. We do a caramel apple.
Pineapple. We've done elderberry.
So we really don't do grape wine at all.
No.
There's enough good grape wine out there, so we're not trying to compete with that. But the biggest problem that we have with the winemaking is we'll make 30 bottles at one time. We give them all away, and we tell people, hey, just sit on it. Don't do anything with it for 6 months. And then usually by the next day, we're getting a phone call with people saying, hey, this was good. This was great. And it's like, if you thought it was good now, if you had waited 6 months, it's only going to get better.
And then we put his therapy dog, which is also a lab.
Yay.
And you love labs. So on all the labels, and make her the star of the label. So.
Yeah, I have those in my I have those in my kitchen, and I was actually reminded of that the other day. That it's kind of funny. You see this goofy black lab on a wine bottle. But I have a friend of mine who is deep into making high-end red wines, like California red wines, and he's like a scientist level with the malolactic acid fermentation, whatever, and I help him bottle the stuff, and I know how to run the corking thing, And what he does is he orders grapes from different vineyards in California. They pick them and then they freeze them and they ship them frozen to him on the East Coast here. And he puts them in a food grade trash barrel, like the big kind you see outside of your building or something. And he said the same thing, that the freezing essentially bursts the cells. At first, it splits the skins of the grape or the fruit, and it bursts the cells as well, so the liquid can come out. And then he uses natural yeast, so there's natural yeast on the skins. And he literally sits it with a loose plastic cover on it for several months in the basement, and it just bubbles away.
Okay.
Is that similar to yours?
It is, to a point where in the South, our growing season and stuff like that is a lot longer, but even throughout the winter, we're steadily making wine because we'll use heating pads, heating blankets.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's all about keeping the yeast alive. We're looking for a more... we're looking for the wine to taste the same from year to year. So that's why we sterilize all the fruit that we get, and then we use a commercial grade yeast. But as big as this sounds, we're just doing it in our sink in our kitchen. At some point, Jennifer has said, hey, I would love to have my kitchen back.
Oh.
And
I like making the wine. It's fun. It's another project we do together.
But it does make it hard for holidays and stuff like that, where you're trying to have people over.
And you're moving bottles around.
It's like, hey, yeah, excuse the 5-gallon buckets, and the other thing is with the yeast that we use, your house smells like fresh baked bread for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And by the end of that 2 weeks, you're sick of the smell of fresh baked bread. So,
is there
it's been an adventure.
Is there a particular brand of yeast or a particular strain you use?
We've had a lot of success with Red Star as the brand. And they make about 6 different types of wine yeast. We started out with the Lavin, and they're comparable, and they're probably more well known, but we just had more success with the Red Star. And each yeast out of the 6 ones, they're going to have a different wine profile. Some of them are going to bring out more color. Other ones are going to have a higher alcohol content. We won't bottle anything under 9%. To us, the effort is just not worth it for under 9%. Under 9%, you're looking at a really strong beer.
Yep.
So
how do you measure? I'm going to geek out here. How do you measure the alcohol content?
Okay. So we have a triple scale hydrometer. So what you end up doing is you add the water, the sugars, and everything to, I guess, what you would call your wort.
Yep.
And you put the triple scale hydrometer in there. It floats at a certain level. And what you end up doing is you write that down and the temperature that you took it at. When it's done fermenting, you will use the triple scale hydrometer again. You put it back into the wort, and it's gonna float, but at a different level.
Okay.
And then at that point, I plug it into my app on the phone because I'm not very good at math, and that figures out the alcohol content for you.
Oh wow, interesting. Because we use a hydrometer for making maple syrup to test whether it's at the right density to be legally considered maple syrup.
Oh wow! Okay.
It's a Brix. It's called a Brix scale, which I think is sugar.
Mm-hmm. It is. So it's a very similar process. Are you going to be doing the maple syrup evaporator this year?
I hope to. I have a tradition of getting really sick in the late winter, and that's when the sap season runs.
Okay.
I get the flu every year, and then it's like, I can't move for 3 weeks. So, yeah, the plan is I have to find a new file cabinet, and those are harder and harder to find now because no one saves paper files anymore. Everything's PDFs,
Oh, wow. I hadn't thought that.
Yeah, I was looking on.
You are right.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny how there are fewer and fewer of them. I got to look on Craigslist again. I looked a couple of months ago, and I could get one down here in New York, but getting a large file cabinet up on a 3-hour drive on top of my electric car is not something I'm looking forward to.
No.
Right.
So,
okay. I can see the difficulty in that.
That brought up an image in my head. It made me smile.
But the thing that all our neighbors know that we're winemakers, and when it comes to bottling day, we have an overabundance of help.
Oh, nice!
Because everybody's just fascinated by the whole thing, and it ends up turning into like a little bit of an assembly line. And at the end of the day, they all get a bottle of wine, and we got a chance to hang out together. And it's a really fun experience.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I keep the honeybees is it's an excuse for me and one of my best friends to get together because the bees are on his roof. And 6 years into this, he's still clueless about beekeeping, so he needs me to come over,
Oh, wow.
I'm making fun of my friend Brian. I love him. But it's kind of a neat thing where it's action forcing event is what Nicole would call it, is Because sometimes you don't always see your friends because there isn't a purpose to it. So I try and make purposes like that. So that's fun.
Okay.
And I gave you, did I give
Very
you guys,
cool.
I gave you guys some honey, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Yep. It's very good. It's
At
very
some point, Jennifer keeps looking at me and she says, you know, it's a great keepsake, but we're supposed to be tasting
good.
it.
We did taste it, though. It was very good.
So,
Really good.
it's one of those things. I'm trying to keep it for as long as I can, and it's really good honey. We should eat it before it crystallizes.
Yeah, you should.
So-
Yeah. That's like when people give you a very rare bottle of olive oil that they brought from Italy, is what people don't realize. They're like, oh, I only want to use a little bit. Olive oil goes bad after 6 months.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, maybe it's not 6, maybe a year, but still, that's why there's a date on the back. If your olive oil doesn't have a date on the back, it's not olive oil, I think. But yeah, you should use it and appreciate it. And then just think of Eric while you're having it, you know?
Yes.
Yes.
And I pulled out the box the other day that I got you the autograph for us.
Oh yeah.
We're getting ready to make Christmas
We're getting ready to
cards.
make Christmas cards, and we always look for it. That's become part of our family tradition now.
Well, hold on to that
And,
thought, because for the after show for the Garden Fork patrons, I wanted to talk about your lino block printing. I thought people might find that interesting.
Okay.
What do you say? So
All right.
I wanted to say thank you for everyone for listening. Jen and Rob kind of changed my life and my outlook on things as well. And I'm sure we email now, and next time one of us goes on a trip, we can get together again. But in the after show, we'll talk a bit about lino block printing. And I always am stumbling trying to end the podcast here. So I'm just going to say thanks for listening. And Rob and Jen will be on again. Go out and do cool stuff and make it a great day. Garden Fork Radio is produced in Brooklyn, New York by Garden Fork Media, LLC. Our music is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. Our producer is Jimmy Goots of hollowbooks.com.